WoodwardSports.com chat poll, and that's what we're talking about right now. Who is your Lions MVP for this year? 44% of the people say Jared Goff. 40% of the people say Penei Sewell. 12% of the people say other. And Aiden Hutchinson with 5% of the vote, but 100% of Sam Flannel's vote.
Mine is Penei Sewell. Mine is Penei Sewell. You look at him, he was the best offensive lineman all year. He was a first-team All-Pro. The numbers he put up, not letting up a sack for the first, 6 weeks, 7 weeks of the season, it was insane.
In the NFL.
In the NFL. The guy was a freak of nature. He set a record in the NFL for most consecutive pass blocking snaps without a sack allowed. I loved seeing what he did this year, what he grew into. He is the best offensive lineman in the NFL, and hopefully the Lions sign him to an 8-year deal and keep him in Detroit for his entire career.
Oh, yeah, $1 billion.
Yes. Whatever he wants.
Give him the Happy Gilmore check. All of it. Lots of run for Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. You know what? Again, and I'm guilty of it, and I lead the charge for this all the time when I say Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't get the due he deserves around the National Football League and around the country. And then what did I do? The exact same thing. Because when you're talking about Lions MVP, there is a case for Amon-Ra St. Brown. But guys, this just kind of opened my eyes to it again. I know it stings, and I know it still stings for some people. And I know that we're heartbroken. But this discussion... I'm talking about like a case. You can make a case for Jared Goff. You can make a case for Penei Sewell. You can make a case for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sam was making a case for Aiden Hutchinson. Nobody even brought up Laporta, who I think is as big of a piece. If you look at today's NFL, he slots right in there with just as important of a piece as anybody else. But guys, this is why they're good now. This is why last Sunday wasn't the be-all, end-all. It wasn't. For real, it's not. Let's look at the names and the cases that you can make for all those guys that we just mentioned. And they've all been here 3 years or less. All of them. That's why this team's good. That's why this team's here to stay. There's talent. Period. End of story. They have good players. They got the good players through the draft. I don't know what to do about it either because it's new to me. But here we are. This is us.
Yeah, and you were talking about it. They had 4 All-Pros on offense. I mean, Frank Ragnow, Penei Sewell, Sam Laporta, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And that doesn't even count Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery being the best backfield in the NFL. Like, them two as a combination would certainly be first-team All-Pro. And then, of course, Jared Goff had one of his best seasons of his career. You could argue best season. And then defensively, as I said, they were better this year. They were a defense that could win you some games, help you win some games, as long as the offense continued to put out their output. And hell, even in some games, they were dominant. So yes, and that's one thing that we talked about a little bit on Wake Up Woodward. When we talk about next year, when we talk about the years after, Jared Goff will still be here. Montgomery and Gibbs will still be here. Amon-Ra St. Brown will still be here. Sam Laporta will still be here. Aiden Hutchinson, Penei Sewell, Brian Branch. All of those guys are young on their rookie contracts except for Jared Goff. And I think moving forward, this team will be actually more talented in the subsequent years. But this team is already talented. I mean, 4 All-Pros. We were talking about before the game, or 4 offensive All-Pros. We were talking about the game, all of the weapons that the 49ers have. The Lions offensively can almost match them player for player.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's weird to hear you say that.
Yeah.
It's probably weird to say it.
Yeah.
But that's how quickly it changed. See, that's my overriding takeaway from this season. For the people that are still bitter about last Sunday. Get comfortable with this, guys. Like, they're a real organization. And they're a real team. And they have real players and everything. It's really weird. But that's how I always looked around the league for the last, 30 years, sans about 1 or 2 seasons, and said, man, you look around and all these teams that are shitty get good quickly. And it never happens to us. Why? But it did. Yep. And in a year and a half, it happened. In a year and a half. Yeah. And then boom, we were in there.
I mean, think about this. In late October of 2022, the Lions were 1-6, and ever since then they had an 8-2 finish to that season. And then this past year they had a 17-point lead in the NFC Championship game with a chance to go to a Super Bowl. And that's the thing. This turnaround has been lightning speed. It's been faster than any of us expected. I mean, 3-13-1 in 2021.
And then 1-6.
And then 1-6. And then by 2023, a 17-point lead coming into the third quarter of the NFC Championship game, only losing the NFC Championship game by 3 at San Francisco. That's one of, I mean, certainly the greatest Lions turnaround of all time, but I can't even think of many in the entire NFL that were that, and it was all pretty much fueled by the draft. Obviously, you had some free agents like David Montgomery and Graham Glasgow or the like sprinkled in, but that's what happens when you got a guy like Brad Holmes who hits like 3 Grand Slam home runs in 3 consecutive drafts.
WoodwardSports.com chat thread. What do you think about this comment by Thomas Perry? St. Brown would have gotten more votes than Hutch.
Yeah, that's fair.
I agree with that.
No, that's 100% fair. I mean, I like, you can certainly make a case for Penei, for Jared Goff, for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think you can make a case for Ragnow. You could make a case for Laporta. But I was just saying that my point with Aiden Hutchinson was more to highlight that people should appreciate him more for what he did instead of lambasting him for what he didn't do. And I know not everybody's doing it, but Hutch was pretty damn important himself. And you even said that when he plays well, it unlocks the ceiling of this team to a true Super Bowl favorite.
Yeah, I mean, but for me, again, the bottom line is it's always going to be Penei Sewell.
Sure.
It always will be, because you've heard me say this multiple times, and it gives me an opportunity to say it again. He's the one that changed everything. He's the one that changed the locker room. He's the one that changed the expectations. And more importantly, you know what he did? He shed that Lions are the bitch in the room narrative. He got rid of that. He got rid of that by going face-to-face with Bosa and Aaron Donald and then sunning them in the game too. Like, it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to do it. And he does it repeatedly. And, yeah, I see the things in here too, the chat messages. Danny G, give him a blank check. 100%. You don't have to do it yet, because that's you can stagger these types of things. You still got the option on him, but yeah, make no mistake, they're gonna get him set up. Yeah. They're gonna get him set up. And remember, guys, like, it takes the other guy to want to do that too.
Oh yeah.
If I were Penei Sewell, would I sign now or would I sign after next year? I would sign after next year.
Oh, yeah. And here's the thing. He's the best offensive lineman in the NFL right now. And when you look at his numbers, when you look at how he graded out, you talked about it, Spenny, about how he almost let up, like, what was it, like 23 pressures and 1 sack or something like that. Something absurd. He was as good of a pass blocking tackle in the NFL. He actually graded out better against the run. He was the number 1 graded tackle in the entire NFL, but the number 1 graded tackle by a wide margin
because he's always 6 yards downfield.
Yeah, it's funny
every
how that
single
works.
Run play.
Because you see it with the metrics and you see it when you actually watch the game, that he's always blowing up his man and 6 yards down the field when ever there's a run play. And John Macaroon, one of our esteemed guests on the show, friend of the network,
Doc.
shout out Doc. He said something on one of the shows I was on recently, and when you look into the numbers, it's actually borns itself out. Penei Sewell had one of the best tackle seasons ever.
Like ever. Like
in
ever,
NFL history.
Ever? Yes, ever.
Yes. So, yes, he is 100% the best offensive lineman in the NFL. It took me a little longer than most to warm up to the idea that he's a no-doubt gold jacket guy.
Of course it did.
Hey, but I'm there now. He's the best O-lineman in football. Not tackle, O-lineman.
Bada bing, bada boom. Laporta, he completely outplayed expectations by a ton and was a key component to a bunch of our wins. And bada bing, bada boom, I can't hate on that. I can't, because you notice a theme with all these teams that were in the Final Four of the NFL. You notice a theme
all have
at one of the
tight ends.
one of the positions. Like, go across the board. Baltimore may have 2 now.
Yeah.
Baltimore may have 2.
Man.
Kelsey, Kittle, Laporta. And yes, he belongs in those conversations.
Of course he does.
Because he is as good as any of those guys. He is as good. He's as important to his team as any of those guys are. Get comfortable saying that.
Yeah, he most certainly is. He probably just had the best rookie tight end season ever. It's funny. The one thing I will say, though, is it's kind of hard for me to say that. I know tight ends are different. I know that they don't usually put up the numbers that wide receivers do. I mean, evidenced out by there was only 1,000-yard receiver as a tight end, George Kittle, this year. But I don't know if I can put Sam Laporta over Amon-Ra St. Brown in terms of MVP of this team, just because Amon-Ra St. Brown had a first-team All-Pro season as a wide receiver. He had over 1,500 900 yards despite missing a game. And it's not a knock on Laporta. I'm just saying the ceiling of what you can accomplish as a number one, like all-pro wide receiver is more than what a tight end can do. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if I could put him over Amon-Ra St. Brown, but that's not a knock on Laporta. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown's pretty damn good in his own right.
Well, but that's the other thing, too. Like, this is also a factual statement. Amon-Ra St. Brown, at this point in his career, is further ahead of almost any wide receiver ever. Like, this Justin Jefferson that you all love and worship, he's further along at this point in his career. Look at the numbers.
I can't
look
say
at the
that.
numbers.
See, that's
look at the numbers, Flannel. That's what I'm talking about. The numbers. Look at them.
Well, I'll also look at the fact that Justin Jefferson had 1,000 yards and played 9 games this year. I look at the fact that in terms of the numbers, in terms of production per games played,
that's a flavor thing, though, Sam Flannel. Like that depends on your flavor. Like we've had this discussion before. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown gets overlooked because he doesn't catch the 60-yard deep ball. That's why. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason why. It's not that he's an inferior receiver. He is not. It's the nature of his game and the nature of what he's asked to do in the offense, and he does it as good as anybody in the National Football League. I'll back that up. Could Justin Jefferson do Amon-Ra St. Brown's role as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Of course not.
Of course not. But that's what you see. That's what you see on the highlight shows. You see Justin Jefferson in the jump ball situation. That's what you see that, so you're programmed to think that. Maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're automatically conditioned to say Amon-Ra St. Brown's not as dynamic as a Justin Jefferson. But when you put it all back together, every bit of the production is there.
But I don't like this idea that when it comes to Justin Jefferson and numbers, and even if you want to include like a Tyreek Hill or a Jamar Chase or somebody like that it's about being programmed. Because I don't want any Amon-Ra St. Brown love, which he rightfully deserves. I mean, he was first-team All-Pro for a reason. I don't want that to seep into any slander when it comes to Justin Jefferson or like a Tyreek Hill or a Jamar Chase or, for example, an A.J. Brown or a C.D. Lamb. They're all great in their own right. I would agree with you that you can certainly say that Amon-Ra St. Brown is as good or in the room as any of those guys and as important to their team as any of those guys. To me, it's not about programmed. It's about how do you want it, what team do they play for? Obviously, we're biased when it comes to Amon-Ra St. Brown because there's so much greatness at the wide receiver position right now. So much.
Steven Syrett says Flannel only likes stats when it supports his argument. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a narrative angle with Sam Flannel. I don't think anybody would dispute that.
I mean, we'll see how this goes along. I don't want there to be any slander when it comes to, like, I don't want us to do this thing that sometimes I don't think I'm guilty of because I feel like I'm kind of a truth teller, but some Detroit sports fans kind of get into this mindset of only good players play in Detroit. That's the whole with like the Amon-Ra St. Brown and being like, Justin Jefferson, it's all about what you like or whatnot. Justin Jefferson, by the numbers, has had arguably the greatest start to a career any receiver's ever had. I know that he was hurt this year, but he had 1,000 yards in 9 games. That's unbelievable. What Amon-Ra St. Brown has done is unbelievable. They're all unbelievable. All of them.
It's fair.
I've never saw Amon-Ra St. Brown pouting on the sideline.
And
never.
And you know what? I don't hate that, and I think that's more of a favor to Amon-Ra St. Brown as opposed to a knock on Justin Jefferson, but I don't hate that. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're never going to question if he's about the team or if he's going to work hard. That's definitely a notch in his favor.